So today we're gonna actually talk about the mistakes, the things that we see day in and day out with the athletes that we work with that are preventing explosive athletes, high speed moving athletes that can really take advantage of that skill set to perform their best. Play your best when it matters most. Number one, we typically see the first mistake from the top all the way down in its speed being your head. Believe it or not, we like to think about your head as being a parachute. So if that head is tilting back when you're accelerating and going forward, you are preventing yourself from accelerating. You're actually putting on the brakes. So with that chin up, those eyes up, with that head back, there's something called the pelvo-ocular relationship, meaning that where the eyes goes, the hip goes as well. So the head back means the hips are going to be changing, and then obviously is affecting your feet. And that's where the money is made or lost. So do not allow your head to be back and create a parachute or a braking mechanism if you're trying to run as fast as possible. Number two is going to be your arms. And typically, there's a lot of things that can be done wrong with your arms. We talk a lot about this, but the one I see most often is the arms crossing the body. Creating a rotation when we're trying to accelerate forward is a huge mistake. So what happens in the arms is going to directly affect the hips. As you know, where the hips goes, the legs follow. So if we're crossing the arms in our action trying to move forward, we're actually rotating the hips and causing a lot of sideways motion in our feet. So even if you are fast forward and you're crossing those arms, you're actually using twice as much energy as it takes to produce the same amount of force. So keep those arms straight forward and back instead of allowing those to cross the midline, especially when we're thinking about across the chest. Once that crosses the chest, the midline of the chest, we're actually in trouble there. Number three is all about braking at the waist. So when we talk about braking at the waist, or where the waist should actually be, we think about being a fighter jet, not a helicopter, straight up and down, fighter jet. Where does a fighter jet actually come off of the ground in order to have its highest amount of acceleration? It goes in that kind of 45-degree angle. And we think about our body being in the same position. So head, shoulders, hips, and backside leg has to be in a nice good one line alignment in order to produce the best force down and back. And we know the difference between an average and an explosive athlete is one that's going to be able to produce the most force in the best direction. We cannot be bent at the waist. If our lower body is here, our upper body is here, if we're broken at the waist, if our chest is at the ground, it tends to make our center of gravity more forward to the hip. Therefore, our feet have to land forward to the hip, and we end up pulling instead of pushing, which is a huge mistake, and also leads us to point number four, which is front side mechanics and basically overstriding. If we do have a break at the waist, it's going to cause that foot to land in front of the hips, but there are a lot of other reasons why we tend to overstride or reach our foot out in front to land in front of the hips and have our center of gravity forward of our hips, therefore pulling backwards. We've said it a lot of times before, pushing is more explosive and more effective than pulling. Pushing uses the more explosive and more powerful muscles. Pulling is actually going to create some compensations that's not only going to decrease speed, but increase injury likelihood. If you have problems with hamstring injuries, you need to look at your overstriding. You need to look at your hamstrings and the ability for your feet to land in front of the hips versus landing underneath and behind your hips so you get that push forward. So do not overstride. If you find yourself getting that big, long position, pull it back a little bit, make some changes, and that leads us to our last point, which is don't allow it to go into the opposite end of understriding. Understriding is too short of a stride and you're not getting the full explosiveness from the backside mechanics. So if we think about front side, backside mechanics, the front knee should be driving forward, the back leg should be pushing all the way through the toes. So we call that triple extension. So from the hips back to the backside foot, that is our backside mechanics. Understriding would look like when our toe off, when that foot comes off of the ground to go back into the front side mechanics, if the hip, knee, and ankle haven't gone through the full extension, they're not done yet, and your stride is too short. Are there situations where we actually have to understride, meaning that we're actually going a short distance, or the reaction is too quick that we actually cannot go through a full stride? Yeah, absolutely. But we're talking about full speed, absolute acceleration. And if you want to be as fast as you possibly can, you've got to get full extension in the hip, knee, and ankle, full triple extension. So you cannot understride. There you have it, guys. 5 of the top mistakes that we consistently see athletes doing that is slowing them down. If you liked any one of these 5, if any one of these 5 actually resonated with you, if you're trying to be the most explosive athlete possible, go ahead and hit a like on this video. That'll allow us to make more just like this. And if you want to go from here into what you should be doing to be as fast as you possibly can, check out this video.